Hi everyone, I'll be going through a real-life example of how an acquaintance of mine helped catch a real-life intelligence agent who was working at a university and selling classified research to a certain government intelligence agency on the internet. This will be a real technique used by an actual information security specialist, and today we'll cover how he did it and how to catch a real-life spy. Of course, this video will be useful if you're an information security newbie, because I'll go through the basics of why this works as well. But for someone a bit more advanced who wants to also get into the field, so you'll actually see how a certain attack like this is carried out in practice. Let's go now through the basics of ARP spoofing, which is the foundational core technique that we're going to use to make this attack a reality. And it's very simple but very cool, so it's going to be quite interesting to see how it works. Now this guy is our spy we're looking at over here, so let's give him a phone for him to use as his device to take pictures of documents and send them over. Let's give him a tiny hat as well, as a small indicator that he's a spy. And let's see what he does, even let's say when we're not watching. He connects to the router, which will be just a small box. If I can get the stylus to work properly. There we go. It's a box with some antennae. He sends some requests to this box and it sends them over to the big World Wide Web. Then it gets information back from the internet and sends them over back to our spy, just like any other normal standard internet transaction. Now every single device we look at has two addresses, the ones in your room and the ones used by spies, all no exception. You might know about this, but one address is the one we use to communicate with the network, and that's an address made up of 4 numbers usually. That's the IP address, and at the same time a MAC address, which is a bit longer, but I'll shorten it to 2 characters, 4 characters more precisely, which maps to our physical actual device. So let's say he can go on holiday, visit the Bahamas, connect to the hotel Wi-Fi there, and he'll get a new IP address, this one. But his MAC address will still stay the same because it's used to assign per physical device. And the ARP spoofing attack that we're looking at is actually made to focus on this link and to spoof it essentially. And even routers have both of these addresses, of course, so usually ending with 0.1, and they can have any MAC address as well. So again, zooming out a bit, this is the standard interaction for any internet communication. We can't connect to them straight away, assuming we're using some sort of network. We connect to the router and from there on to the internet. Now, where do we come into place? Let's draw a very nice based hacker. Give ourselves a good mechanical keyboard. We're hopefully going to upgrade to a split keyboard later on. Draw a smiley face to see that we're a good hacker. And what do? We first again connect to the router to also be in the same network and get our IP address in the same range. So we'll be able to scan the whole network and see what other devices are connected. Okay, 58 for example. And we'll have a MAC address cc:, for example. Now, as part of our attack, what do? We tell the router one simple thing, saying, I am now AA, AA. Because remember, ARP is the protocol that works with those physical MAC addresses, that maps those addresses to real-life devices. So we can say that, even put an exclamation mark for emphasis, and the router will typically say okay, because it's got no other reason to think that we're lying. So it remembers this and adds our address to its routing table. Table essentially being the list of the devices on the network and what ARP addresses they have. And then similarly, we connect to our spy's phone and say, I am now B. Now the spy and his device also doesn't have any option but to accept our request. So usually he would just reply with, okay, changed routing tables, and now the new information has been updated. But what does this mean? What does this help us do finally? Before, when he would send information to the router, we will become essentially this fake router through which all information is passed on. And if we've set up traffic forwarding correctly, and the next time this guy wants to visit the internet, he'd request not to the router, but to us, and say, okay, visit this address, for example. It's very private, but we're the internet, we're his only point of access to it, and we pass this information on to the router, and all of it goes through us, which is very, very nice and very neat, exactly what we wanted to find out what websites our suspect has been visiting. So let's see how it works in practice now with the exact specified commands. Okay, making a bit of laptop noises, that's good. First, let's see our IP address, the IP address used on our current network. In fact, yeah, I made a mistake. It should be 0.78, not 58. That's the address. You can see it shows us up. This is what we use on our current device. The next step is to do a scan of the network, which we do using the nmap utility. Now this and all other utilities I'll show in the future are installed by default on Kali Linux. If you're on another machine, you'll have to install them manually. So again, that's why I recommend Kali very much. It's very good to have them before. Now, and as we expect, there's a 0.1 address, which is the router, the gateway to the wider internet, 78 being our address, and 115, which is the exact phone in question, also connected to the same network that we've got right over here. After we do this, we open a new terminal, and in fact two more, to start the ARP spoofing attack and make those connections, as you can see in red over here, that we made before, to fool the devices into thinking that we're the right place to send their traffic to. And here you can use the long MAC addresses, but again it's much simpler to just put the IP addresses we found out from before. Oh, let's do this here one way. So this is us telling the gateway, it seems, that we're the phone, the right hand of this diagram, and here we do it the other way, essentially the left hand of the beautiful diagram that I've drawn over here. After we do this, we quickly turn on TCP dump, which is something that also captures all of the traffic from our target host, being the phone, and writes it to a special .pcap file, which is a file stored exactly for storing traffic. Type our sudo password once more. Linux does love security. After we've visited the suspicious sites, or if you're doing this live, this will be of course in a live scenario where one person's using the phone and the other is secretly finding out what he's doing. We can go and actually read the traffic that we generated over here. And again, we can even keep this program running to make sure it keeps getting more traffic and even more evidence we need to convince this spy and traitor to the nation. So let's go back to our old tab and see TCP dump, but this time with the R flag, which we use for reading commands, the file that we specified before, and open it in NeoVim, of course the best text editor ever made. Wait a bit for the code to load, and there we go, line by line, all of the traffic made, all of the requests done, and we can go through them and see if there's anything suspicious. Now, how many lines? And we've got quite a few lines, so it will be quite annoying to sift through them manually, but we're only interested in the main stuff that could give away that this guy is a spy. So let's see if he's been visiting any CIA. Not much. FBI maybe. Still nothing. No use typing the full URL, just the key quote that we need. And if we search up Mossad, there we go. This guy has clearly made TCP/IP requests to this certain website. This is exactly what we needed without even touching this guy's device, without breaking any of his passwords or stealing any other confidential data. We've managed to go and get the exact sites that he's visited. Now you can see even more cases of this being shown, and I won't go into too much detail to see the exact traffic. Of course, you can use a program like Wireshark to go and analyze this traffic more deeply, and if it's unencrypted HTTP traffic, for example, even see the contents this guy is putting out as his requests. But this is still enough for now. Again, we open up the file, read it, and find the exact URL we needed. How this came to be? Again, through this simple method with my beautiful arrow drawings, of course, which I know I'll keep improving in the future. But this is how it's done. The guy is sending all of the requests through us, they're repeated to the router, and only from then to the internet. Once they go back, everything goes through us, so no traffic goes astray, and we're able to see everything and catch the guy who wishes us harm. That's it. It's a simple process, and hopefully this was enough to explain both the logic and the practical realizations behind it. Again, our attack is actually still going on, so we'll be able to do this indefinitely, effectively. I hope the way I explained this was good enough, and if you have any questions about both how the technique works, or if you're a bit more advanced and you want to suggest some improvements to the scheme to make it even more stealthy or to make it even more effective and powerful, and then do let me know in the comments down below or by email at eyeofliberty.com. And if you enjoyed this video, do give a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.